was sitting in there, to be honest. I was like, okay, he's going to ask for the marriage certificate.
He showed up alone, at a fan event, in sunglasses, and without the one thing that used to matter, his wedding ring. Not in his pocket, not on a chain, just gone. And that ring didn't just disappear. It screamed what his mouth wouldn't say. Something was deeply wrong between Jovi and Yara. What's wild is how quietly it all cracked. Fans had questions. Jovi had shrugs. Yara had silence. But the tension? It was loud, louder than ever before. Welcome to Reality Sport. I'm Oliva, and you're watching the story fans weren't meant to know. What really happened to the couple TLC built an entire franchise spin-off around? And more importantly, why were producers scrambling behind the scenes long before fans caught on? Comment below if you already noticed the signs before the bombshell moments. We're about to expose all the cracks they tried to blur with filters, edits, and couple photos that aged faster than love in a nightclub. Not long ago, it seemed like Yara and Jovi had it figured out. They had the influencer lifestyle, a cute baby girl, jet set vibes, and a personality clash that somehow worked on screen. It was chaotic, yes, but controlled. Until it wasn't. Because behind every reality TV pairing that rises fast, there's usually a moment that sends them crashing even faster. And this one started quietly. Just different cities, different schedules, different goals. But it wasn't random. Everything about their growing apart had receipts. Right there in the background of their posts, the tone of their captions, and who showed up solo when cameras weren't rolling anymore. Jovi was offshore more. Yara was flying out more. Europe, LA, Prague. Her side was building something. His side was on standby. And yet, they both kept posting like everything was okay until those mysterious solo shots began replacing couple pics. Until fans noticed she stopped tagging him. Until Yara, who once gushed over her relationship, even in frustration, began speaking in code. Peace over drama. Things you can't fix. Learning to love myself again. Those aren't captions. They're white flags. But when a man who practically keeps his ring on like a personality trait suddenly stops wearing it, people notice. Especially when you're a public figure who built a digital identity around being a husband and father. Fans quickly clocked it, screenshot it, stitched it, and spread it like wildfire. A Reddit post of Jovi at a Miami bar, ringless, laughing, sparked a frenzy. Who was he with? Where was Yara? But the better question, why did he look so comfortable without the one person he used to say grounded him? What most didn't realize then is, this wasn't new. Their split didn't start in Miami. It didn't start with a fight. It started months earlier, when their lives stopped overlapping. They had been living in separate states, on separate schedules, barely sharing space unless TLC cameras required it. What you're about to see is how long they kept the show going after the marriage had already paused off camera. And we're only just getting started. Because that ring wasn't the only thing missing. Respect, communication, and emotional effort left the group chat way before fans caught on. Want to know how TLC tried to erase the cracks before they shattered on screen? Stick around. You won't believe who leaked what next. For fans watching the grid, everything looked okay. Yara posting glossy travel pics from Paris, boutique launches in LA, matching outfits with Mila. Jovi, meanwhile, was checking in from offshore rigs, and then checking out in New Orleans bars. Different vibes, but no one panicked, at least, not at first. But what looked like career hustle on both sides was masking something major. They weren't living together. Not really. They were moving in two totally different directions, and the distance wasn't just miles. It was months of missed calls, misread texts, and refusal to meet each other halfway. Yara was chasing real growth, business meetings, brand expansion, family support in Europe, stuff that builds a future. Jovi was still orbiting a lifestyle from 5 years ago. Nightlife, spontaneous partying, Zero interest in relocating. The club scene? Still calling. But the marriage? Going quiet. That silence between them says more than any caption could. But pay attention, because Yara's posts started shifting. No more we, no more our. It slowly turned into my space, my trip, my life. Fans picked up on it when she posted one line, "Some things you can't fix." Nothing flashy, no long paragraphs, just that. But if you've lived through a slow break relationship, you know silence like that cuts deeper than yelling ever could. It's what resignation looks like when someone's tired of begging. And while Yara was dropping quiet clues, Jovi was dropping the ball. Take the live stream where fans directly asked her, "Where's Jovi?" She smiled and deflected, saying he's busy, that's all. The kind of line you give when you've already cried behind the scenes and decided not to do it in public anymore. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. While Yara was showing up solo to events with Mila or her mom, Jovi was showing up solo to bars. Or not showing up at all. One fan spotted him at a Miami bar, casually sipping a drink, ringless, and smiling like he wasn't about to trend for the wrong reasons. That moment birthed 10 new rumors. Were they just distant? Were they done? Was he party first? Dad second? Yara never addressed the debate directly, but every no comment, every deleted anniversary post, every solo maternity vlog after that was a quiet yes. When couples stop speaking to each other, the silence spreads everywhere. You see it in their rhythm, their presence, the tension in the background of things they thought fans wouldn't notice. But fans did notice. Because body language doesn't lie, even if Instagram does. Now here's where it takes a sharper turn. Because while fans were scanning posts for answers, TLC already knew the truth. And they were desperate to keep it off screen. Why? Because a brand deal, a move, and one choice Jovi refused to make set off a domino effect that would crash everything they were building. The next moment changed it all. And someone caught it on camera. It started with one dream opportunity, an LA brand deal Yara had been working toward for months. Bigger exposure, real financial freedom, contracts too good to pass up. And for a while, it looked like something they'd figure out together. After all, they were a team, right? Or at least that's what they always said in interviews. But when the call came, and the calendar got blocked, and the condo tours started happening, Jovi stalled. Then hesitated. Then finally said it, flat out. He wasn't coming. Not temporarily. Not even just to support her for a season. New Orleans was home. His job was there. His people were there. And he weren't about to chase LA's influencer scene. In his words, you go if you want. I'm staying. It wasn't anger that shifted Yara's world in that moment. It was clarity. That quiet, cold type. The kind that tells you without yelling that you're suddenly on your own. The message underneath? He was fine building a life without her in it full time. People around them felt the change before they said a word. According to someone close to the production crew, Yara showed up to their next TLC shoot different. Still polished, still professional, but distant. When the cameras weren't rolling, she barely spoke to Jovi. No warm glances. No casual banter. Just business. And here's the part fans never saw. During a Miami shoot meant to showcase a fun Where Are They Now vibe, TLC caught what one crew member called the beginning of the end. Jovi walked in late, hungover, kept his sunglasses on inside like it was still Saturday night. Yara, already in full glam, turned to him and said flatly, "You haven't changed at all." That line didn't leave her lips like an insult. It was worse. It hit like disappointment. Lunch was the disaster moment. Jovi casually joked about going out later that night with some friends from the area. Yara snapped. Not screaming, but sharp. "You came to work, not to drink." He laughed, shrugged. I can do both. It wasn't dramatic enough to trend. No chairs were thrown. But the vibe? It bled through the lens. They kept rolling. But the producers weren't getting the show they needed. No happy couple energy. No synergy. No storyline. TLC eventually scrapped the footage. Too raw. Too one-sided. Jovi looked careless. Yara looked done. The segment was shelved. But the damage didn't pause just because the episode did. What that Miami trip confirmed wasn't just resentment, it was emotional separation in real time. The team behind the camera could tell. This wasn't a couple going through a bad month. This was a woman emotionally relocating before she physically did. And yet, while TLC tried to bury that awkward shoot, what happened after Miami made it impossible to hide. Because once the Instagram stories started disappearing and the cryptic posts went up, fans realized the breakup already happened. And someone leaked the first real clue. Behind the scenes, TLC was sweating. Not because they didn't see the breakup coming, but because they'd banked an entire season on pretending it wasn't happening. What the cameras did catch during that Miami shoot: two people existing side by side like strangers. Jovi cracking jokes the way he always does, trying to lighten the mood, but barely getting a reaction. Yara checked out emotionally, barely looking at him unless she had to. Off camera, their energy was worse. The lunch fight might have been casual on the surface, but producers felt the tension leaking into every frame. To executives back at TLC HQ, that footage wasn't content. It was a crisis. They were planning a spin-off around how Yara and Jovi balanced being parents, partners, and public figures. But the leads weren't even willing to speak in the same room anymore. So they did what reality TV does best when people get too real: damage control. Scenes were edited out. Certain lines were cut completely. They trimmed long shots full of awkward silences and replaced them with tighter frames to avoid the cold shoulder moments. Viewers had no clue, but months of footage were being Frankenstein stitched just to create the illusion of closeness. And when producers suggested reshoots, Yara refused. Not out of ego, out of self-respect. "I'm not going to pretend we're fine," she allegedly told them. One assistant said she wasn't angry. She was numb. She didn't want to fake a storyline about love when she was privately packing her life into a suitcase for LA. Their solution? Focus the lens on Jovi. Word behind production doors was that he was more open to filming. Translation, he'd say almost anything with the right check. So TLC shifted their vibe, subtly painting him as the one being left behind. Quiet shots of him playing with Mila. Confessionals where he hinted that fame changed Yara. Little sound bites about wanting the old Yara back. It was a calculated move. Frame her ambition as selfish. Frame his stability as underappreciated. But outside the studio, fans saw something different. Screenshots were circulating. Stories were disappearing. That's when Yara posted a late-night Instagram story with 7 brutal words that stopped the fandom cold. He chose the bars over his family. It was up for less than 10 minutes. Deleted. Gone. But screenshots flooded Reddit almost instantly. That sentence hit harder than any breakup speech ever could. And for the first time, fans saw not just the romance breaking, they saw through the edit. They knew she was speaking her truth. And it wasn't going to stay buried, because what leaked next would put fresh cracks all over TLC's polished brand. For Yara, the breakup wasn't loud. It was slow, quiet. The kind of pain that collects in your chest when you've outgrown the version of yourself that tolerated nonsense for peace, but still tried one last time to make it work, for the cameras, for the child, for the fantasy. But love without respect is theater. And she was done acting. Every unfollow was strategic. Every deleted anniversary post, every missing couple pic, every solo outfit snap of her looking powerful and alone wasn't random. It was real. Fans noticed. Comment sections turned into full-blown investigations. Where's Jovi? Why aren't you tagging him? Are you okay? And still, nothing. Yara didn't respond. She didn't owe anyone a public statement for a private war. But sometimes silence says exactly what needs to be said. Paired with those egg stories, blunt affirmations, teary-eyed lives she cut short without explanation, one brutal 2 a.m. quote about leaving behind people who drain your spirit, she didn't need to spell anything out. The heartbreak was right there in the vibe. What made it messier? While she was posting skincare routines and low-key mom updates, her way of staying grounded, Jovi's nightlife wasn't slowing down. Not one bit. Another viral photo. Another blurry clip in a club. One had him talking way too close to a brunette woman, drink in hand, shirt open just enough to start a Twitter fire. Again, no proof of cheating. But this wasn't about infidelity. It was about respect. Or the lack of it. How do you defend someone who keeps publicly doing the one thing you beg them to stop? According to people close to her, the video wasn't the betrayal. It was the reminder. She'd asked him for years to grow up, to prioritize his family, to stop being the guy who needs 4 drinks to feel something. And every club appearance was a fresh slap reminding her that he loved the night more than the home they built. She didn't retaliate. She made moves. TMZ-style photos showed Yara in Los Angeles, smiling politely, touring condos with an agent. No ring, no Jovi, no mask, just a woman choosing stability over spectacle. This wasn't for attention. This was survival. After all the fighting behind closed doors, the missed calls, the bitter back and forth on where to live, she picked somewhere new and finally let the silence speak louder than PR. But here's what TLC didn't count on. She didn't flinch under the spotlight. She stood in it. Alone, yes, but absolutely unwilling to play house for ratings. And that decision triggered full panic behind the scenes. Because now the story was building itself, and the network was no longer in control. By this point, TLC wasn't the only one trying to control the narrative. But they were losing. Badly. Because fans had already become full-time investigators. And unlike the show's editors, they didn't need permission to start connecting dots. Reddit turned into a crime lab. Timeline threads. Comparison posts. Fans zooming in, circling Jovi's empty ring finger in every photo, analyzing body language from months-old vlogs. Comments like, "Look at how she blinks when he talks." And they're not sitting close anymore. They weren't grasping. They were right. Over on TikTok, a fan broke down the entire shift. Caption fonts, tone change, vibes and thumbnails. Another pointed out that Yara's live streams stopped including playful banter. Even when she smiled, it felt rehearsed. Someone caught her staring off mid-sentence when Mila called for her. That clip blew up. For all the glam, curated shots, and transcript-ready captions, there was a glitch behind the gloss. And Jovi? Still partying, still posting, still shrugging, ignoring comments like they weren't flooding every post, smirking when asked about Yara during events. "She's probably off shopping," he said once when asked where she was. It got a laugh. But it also sparked a wave of backlash. Fans weren't laughing anymore. Because if you claim to love someone but can't meet them halfway, or show up when it matters, is it really love? Or is it possession? Yara had outgrown the Jovi she met. She had stretched, sacrificed, adapted. But he was still waiting for the girl he fell in love with, the one who let things slide, looked the other way, played the cool wife to preserve that New Orleans vibe. She wasn't that girl anymore, and she had no desire to go back. Followers started noticing other changes. Word choices in captions changed. We became me. Family became my daughter. She was drawing invisible lines between survival and performance. No more pretending that his distance didn't bother her. No more fake giggles for the feed. And suddenly, even the silence felt loud. Because when one person is still building and the other is breaking your peace, love stops sounding like care and starts sounding like control. The audience wasn't just watching the fall. They were inside it now, decoding every post, every clip. And still, TLC was trying to edit around a breakup that had already gone public in every way except officially. The moment that finally pushed everything over the edge didn't come with a big confession or dramatic showdown. It came with a phone screen and a 17-second video of Jovi at a club in Miami, casually talking to a woman at the bar. His body language, way too familiar. No kiss, no hands, nothing technically incriminating. But the vibes were undeniable, and so was the damage. A mutual friend allegedly sent the clip to Yara before it even made it to the fan pages. Her reaction? Not shock, not rage, just heartbreak. Not because he cheated, because she'd already warned him. One more public embarrassment, and she was done. He knew it. And he still did it. This wasn't about insecurity or jealousy. It was about boundaries. She had spent years asking him to stop playing Bachelor when the cameras turned off. He always half promised. He always said sorry. But then came the drinking, the nights out, the videos, the friends telling him it was harmless. Harmless to who, though? Because when you embarrass someone who built an entire life with you in front of the whole world, at some point, they stop asking for respect. They leave to reclaim it. She didn't lash out. No public clapbacks. No Instagram lives filled with tears. Just quiet erasure. Unfollow. Untag. Photos gone. Like cutting out a tumor before it spreads. Jovi, reportedly, spiraled after that. Flowers. Texts. Calls. Sudden attempts at family time. All too late. That video wasn't a surprise to Yara. It was confirmation. Confirmation that she was never going to come first unless she put herself there. Alone. Meanwhile, producers at TLC saw disaster turning into ratings. So they tried again. Spin it. Salvage it. Whisper behind doors about a possible healing journey arc. A filmed sit-down. A forced reconciliation episode. But Yara? Hard pass. She agreed to film, but only if she could speak freely. No polishing, no pretending. And one insider says when the cameras rolled for her solo confessional, she didn't cry for sympathy. She cried for closure. Because this wasn't fame fatigue. It was emotional exhaustion. And the look in her eyes said it all. She wasn't breaking up with Jovi on camera. She had done that months ago. The cameras had only just caught up. Still, TLC wasn't ready to accept defeat. They saw Jovi's defensiveness and called it vulnerability. They saw the tears post-breakup and called it material. The redemption arc was in motion for someone still stuck in denial. Even after everything, after the deleted posts, the emotional confessional, the club videos that crushed what was left, TLC still wasn't finished with the story. Not because they cared about the couple, because they cared about the views. With their joint storyline on life support, execs started pivoting fast. Cue the subtle shift in social content. Jovi fishing alone. Jovi with Mila, looking pensive. Jovi joking on camera about how hard relationships are sometimes, how people change. It wasn't lost on anyone what they were trying to do. Frame him as the guy left behind, stable, loyal, heartbroken. Meanwhile, Yara? Quietly building her exit arc without waiting for approval. Self-care posts, makeup tutorials, new business drop previews. No mention of Jovi. No trackbacks to the couple brand. And fans started noticing she looked healthier, lighter, sad sometimes, but not broken. Sources say TLC offered her spin-off ideas too. Focused on motherhood, rebuilding, navigating single life, entrepreneurship. But the tone she allegedly set from the start was non-negotiable. No edits that twist the truth. No narratives that paint her as bitter, selfish, or fame-hungry. She wanted control. And she's earned it. Because if anyone walked out of the ashes with dignity and her peace, it was Yara. Behind the scenes, negotiations sparked fast. Jovi's team was more open, even reportedly suggesting a possible Men of 90-Day themed docuseries centered on life after divorce. But what producers didn't expect was the audience's response. Because fans? They split right down the middle. Over on fan pages, the debates raged. She changed after fame. Some argued. She begged him for years. Others shot back. Screenshots turned into exhibits. Fans quoting old episodes where Jovi brushed off her concerns. That one fight about him drinking and disappearing all night back in season 8 circulated again like it aired yesterday. And this time, people watched it with fresh eyes. Because now the pattern made sense. But here's where Yara flipped the old reality playbook on its head. She didn't go on a podcast tour trashing him. She didn't issue a breakup statement. No, we've grown apart cliques. Instead, she focused everything on her kid, her wellness, and her work. And for the first time since stepping into the 90-day world, viewers weren't watching her chase Jovi or fight for his attention. They were watching her finally choose herself. No louder caption could have said it better than one photo she posted, standing in her new apartment in LA, holding Mila, looking directly at the camera with no makeup and no ring. Because sometimes clarity looks like stillness. Jovi, on the other hand, kept the social circus spinning. Cryptic story reposts, one-word captions like loyalty and remember. He replied to fan comments, then deleted them. He alluded to being misunderstood, missing his family, but still didn't change anything. Producers saw the emotion, but missed the reality. He wasn't grieving the marriage. He was grieving the person who always made excuses for him. And she wasn't that person anymore. Then came the slip-up. The one moment that told fans everything they needed. During a casual promo shoot for a digital TLC segment, the host tossed a light question his way. So are you and Yara still good? 1 second of hesitation. Eyes flicked downward. A forced laugh. Yeah, we're good. But his face said the opposite. That clip exploded within hours. TikTok ran slow motion breakdowns. Are those breakup eyes? Did he stutter? Did someone cut the camera after? Reddit lit up. That's not a man in a marriage, one commenter posted. That's a man who's in denial. And with that awkward blink too long moment, every rumor suddenly felt confirmed. Not by rage, not by headlines, but by silence and a too late smile. Because in reality TV, there's what they shoot. And then there's what the audience feels. And once that camera hesitation hit the timeline, nobody felt good anymore. Now all eyes were on what happened next. Which solo series would drop first? Whose version would TLC bet on? And would either of them finally just admit what fans have already known for months? That this wasn't a break. It was the beginning of a whole new story. Their love story started on a screen. Two people from different worlds colliding across borders, cultures, languages, and habits. An instant hit, not because they were perfect, but because they were chaotic. Opposites attract, fight, make up, raise a child, and somehow hold on, or at least pretend to. That formula worked, for a while, until life stopped following the script. The real fracture didn't happen on reality TV. It happened off camera. In the quiet moments with no lighting crew, no confessionals, no producers gently suggesting a new angle. And because it happened in real life, it couldn't be edited back into something endearing. Their downfall wasn't about fame. That was the backdrop, not the problem. The problem was how one person grew, while the other stayed in place expecting applause. Yara didn't change after fame. She developed. Watched herself back on TV and realized what she didn't want to be anymore. That's what growth looks like. Uncomfortable, inconvenient, and impossible to ignore. Jovi, on the other hand, didn't really notice her evolution until she outgrew the version of herself that catered to him. The one who canceled plans to fly with him, who laughed off his drinking, who made him her whole priority. And when that Yara disappeared, he didn't adapt. He tried to drag her back to the old routine, the old roles. But some versions of you don't fit once you've healed from the person who made you shrink in the first place. The love wasn't fake. It wasn't for fame. It was real. That's what made it so hard to let go. If it were all lies, it would have been easier to walk. But the truth is, she loved him. She tried. Over and over. Quietly. Publicly. Behind closed doors. On camera. Every angle. Every season. What she got back was inconsistency. Flashes of change that faded when the cameras did. Promises postponed. Nights out excused. And the worst part, he didn't need to betray her to lose her. He just had to keep choosing everything else first. And for anyone who's been there, that hits deep. When the person you're sacrificing for assumes you'll always come back. When they mistake your patience for permanence. But you know deep down, if staying costs your peace, loving someone from a distance is actually kinder than forcing yourself to collapse inside the home you built together. TLC, fans, even Jovi might still be trying to locate the moment it ended. The truth? There wasn't one. No big fight. No final bombshell. There was just a slow cancellation of hope until one day something better arrived. Peace. And once Yara felt that quiet again, she was never going back. It's easy to romanticize these couples. It's tempting to root for reconciliations. The baby photos. The throwbacks. The occasional "miss my girls" caption. But not all fairy tales are meant to be revived. Especially the ones that ask you to stay small to make them work. People assume opening a new door means you slam the last one shut. Yara never slammed anything. She just stopped knocking on a house with no lights on. That's not quitting. It's choosing peace over obligation. Maturity over loyalty to pain. Choosing yourself before the internet tells you staying is what makes you strong. The footage tells one story. The real Yara tells another. And in between the lines, the fans know the truth. Because the most painful kind of breakup isn't the one with screaming. It's the one where you realize the person you're with doesn't see the upgraded version of you. Only the one they're comfortable controlling. Reality showed us the start. Silence revealed the ending. And maybe love was lost, but she found someone better in the process. Herself. There was no dramatic sit-down, no slow music, no final "we gave it everything" monologue. This isn't the kind of ending you dress up for. There wasn't a cake or a confetti cannon or a reunion hug to wrap it in a bow. Just two people finally admitting, maybe not out loud, but through their choices, that the relationship wasn't working. And no amount of editing could fix what was already over. They've gone their separate ways now, but with a middle line drawn in the shape of their daughter, Mila. Co-parenting, not co-living, functioning like business partners in a shared startup called parenthood, while privately rebuilding completely different lives. And they're both grieving something. Yara, the version of her that stayed quiet. Jovi, the woman he didn't realize was evolving while he was still asking for one more night out. That's the thing about growth. It often feels like betrayal to the people who benefited from who you used to be. This was never the storyline TLC planned. But that's what makes it real. Yes, it hurts. You can feel that in the gaps between their social media. In the shifts from warmth to neutrality. In the deflected interviews and edited scenes full of moments that used to make fans scream with laughter. Or frustration. But what's left behind in the silence is a reminder. Sometimes love doesn't survive the version of success that puts you in separate time zones chasing different dreams. Yara didn't need to talk about it to prove it happened. Her healing wasn't loud. She didn't film herself crying. Didn't sell her pain for sympathy. She just disappeared from the image of the perfect TLC family. Because staying inside it meant disappearing from herself. Jovi, on the other hand, stayed visible. But visibility isn't the same as vulnerability. He kept trying to post through the breakup, party through the tension, joke through the grief. That works until it doesn't. People saw through it. And the more he tried to act normal, the more obvious it became that nothing was. It's easy to only see his mistakes. But it's also fair to say he looked lost. Like someone trying to figure out when it all stopped being enough, and hoping he hadn't destroyed the one solid thing he had along the way. That's not evil. It's tragic. Because he had it. He just didn't protect it. And if you've ever been that person, or loved that person, you know how quietly final those endings feel. Fans were right all along. The distance wasn't random. The separation wasn't a stunt. And the moment Mila started showing up in posts without both parents, it was already done. Now when Yara posts, it's rarely emotional. It's calm. She's focused, building, quiet, and completely in control again. For some, that's boring. For others, it's everything. Especially for women who've spent too long trying to hold together something that kept pulling them apart, just to avoid being labeled as the one who gave up. But walking away is sometimes the loudest act of self-respect there is, especially when the world wants you to perform your pain like content. Even now, with separate lives, they'll always be connected. Mila is the bridge between the chaos and the clarity. And co-parenting isn't failure. It's reality. It's two adults trying, imperfectly, to raise a child after the love story that started it all ran its course. So, how did a couple that once beat every odd spin their Instagram fame into a business and survive multiple ups and downs and like this? They didn't fall out of love in one day. They just stopped seeing each other as the person they were building with. And once it became one person doing all the emotional labor while the other leaned on maybe tomorrow, the outcome wrote itself. That doesn't make Jovi a villain and Yara a saint. They're both messy, human, flawed. But if you're asking why she walked, rewind the tape. She asked. She waited. She tried. The receipts are everywhere. And she didn't walk out on him. She walked back to herself. Now TLC has to regroup, reframe, and rebrand. Because this wasn't the happy ending they could sell. It was the honest one they couldn't fake. And in today's reality world, where everything looks manufactured, that's exactly why it hurts more. Because it didn't come with warning signs. It came with quiet decisions made in private that slowly slipped out in public, one deleted post at a time. This is that rare breakup where the silence said more than the drama ever could. Fans weren't told. They figured it out, piece by piece, in real time. And what they saw didn't need narration. It just needed space to breathe. No one's clapping. No one's throwing shade. They're both walking away with things to unlearn. And fans? They're still watching, still decoding, still wondering if maybe this love story could have survived if it had been lived off camera instead of performed on one. But now a new chapter's kicking off. Because while Yara and Jovi's split is out in the open, another 90-day couple might be doing the exact same thing, but in total silence. And their clues? Way harder to miss than you think.